everyone. I'm Diane Macedo. We're coming on the air after Amazon and Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos and his crew's successful launch to the edge of space. Here's another look at that history-making moment.
We are about to go to space, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Blue Origin's first human flight. Godspeed, first crew of New Shepard. Let's light this candle.
2, 1. We have liftoff. New Shepard cleared the tower.
And New Shepard has cleared the tower on our way to space with our first human crew. Go, Jeff. Go, Mark. Go, Wally. Go, Oliver. You are going to space.
There they are, headed to space. The whole trip took about 10 minutes. They spent about 3 minutes then at the edge of space. And what an incredible journey. The capsule then landed safely by parachute. Just speechless in so many ways. Former U.S. Air Force pilot and ABC News contributor John Nance is with me now. John, what stood out to you as you watched this whole launch take place? We watched them head over to the capsule. We watched them walk up the stairs. We watched them getting ready, ringing the bell, getting on board. And then, of course, the takeoff. We could hear them and their excitement as they were there, weightlessness in space. And then, of course, to watch them land safely, walk out, start popping bottles of champagne, hugs, high fives. What a moment. As you're watching all that, what stands out most to you?
The routine nature that we've been able to achieve, that they've been able to achieve, that the ability to treat this as something that was a given, unlike those original launches 50, 60 years ago, where every one of them was really a very dangerous maneuver. They knew what they were doing here, and you can see this. And the technology is really quite amazing. The technology of bringing those rockets back and landing them exactly where they want them for reusable purposes, as well as the recovery of the spacecraft. And quite frankly, I think one of the things that's certainly remarkable here is that the engineering in being able to put big windows there and comfortable seats, they're going to have quite a run, not just as tourism, but bringing people to the edge of space and then later on bringing them into orbit.
Yeah, John, you talked about the windows. I remember as a kid watching, the shuttles take off, and the windows, they looked about this big, but this was a whole other ballgame. Reclining seats, nice big view. Everybody had a window seat. Not a bad way to travel, of course, if you can afford it, which is the big issue at the moment. But I want to bring astrophysicist Hakeem Alushayi into the conversation too, because Hakeem, to us, it looked like everything went very smoothly, maybe even perfectly. Did you get the same impression?
I absolutely did. And in fact, Katie called it out, and that is it's more difficult for the people watching than for the people on the capsule. They all seemed like they were they were comfortable. They didn't seem afraid. But my heart was pumping because I know the risk involved. And even though they made it look routine, and hopefully it will be routine, you can't eliminate risk entirely, right? And so it's really a game of statistics and numbers and doing the best that you can. And hopefully you can bring things down. You could bring errors down to zero, but this has been a great start, right? The summer of 2021 for taking us into a new era of space flight. The year started with the Perseverance lander on Mars, and now here we are with civilian space flight. I mean, this is just amazing to me.
And you mentioned Katie. I think we do have astronaut Katie Coleman with us, so let's bring Katie into the conversation too. Katie, what does it feel like? You're going up in this rocket, you've got all that force press against you, and then all of a sudden you're completely weightless.
It's like entering a different world. It's like being on a different planet because everything is just so different. As soon as that rocket motor cut off, they were literally weightless, and little things will start floating around the cabin, but you just feel like I've entered a different place and everything here is different. And it makes you look, I think, with new eyes at each other, at what you can do. You heard the hootin' and the hollerin'. My face hurts from watching this launch. And Hakeem was right that it's really hard to watch, especially the beginning, where the rocket motor is still firing those first few minutes. It's just, I find that I feel like I have to be actually physically watching, if not in person, then a screen, and that if you take your eyes off, something might happen. You just hope so much that everything goes right. But then when they're up in space, I mean, just listening to them, I could hear Wally's voice and just realizing that, I mean, this is a place that she saw herself. This is a place that she knew she could be a person that could make a contribution. And what a contribution that she has made now, even after all this time. It's astonishing.
We actually have a small soundbite of that moment. We can hear them in space. I want to play that for you, Katie.
Woo! Oh, wow. So you have to look out the window. Oh, and he just does. Oh, wow. Mark, don't forget to get upside down.
Oh, man, Dad, look at this. It's dark up here.
You can really hear Wally's voice sticking out of the crowd there, shouting those woo-hoos and so on. And again, for context, I want to bring our viewers up to speed in case anyone's just joining. Wally Funk is an 82-year-old former astronaut who trained to go to space and then was told she couldn't purely because she was a woman, but she went on to break barriers, was the first female FAA inspector, and so on. And so what a moment for her. TJ said it best, the story is all about Jeff Bezos and his persistence in getting here. But in many ways, today is Wally Funk's day, Katie.
Well, it's her day, and it's the other women that trained with her. It's all the other women around the country and the world that could have done that as well. And I say training, they basically trained for the testing, and they did the same tests as the Mercury 7. They did these 13 women did as well or better on those tests. And then the space program declined to include women, for really, of course, I'm going to say way too long. But these women were all so different, and I think she brings every one of them with her. And she brings us with her, too. Everyone that has a dream, that thinks that they belong someplace and could contribute, and if they only persist and make sure that they stay ready. And look at Wally Funk. Look what she did today. She stayed ready. She had a dream, and she went to space for all of us.
And what a moment to see the oldest person ever go to space, Wally Funk at 82, and then the youngest, Oliver Damon, at just 18 years old. I found it a little bit ironic. I think we might have the footage of them popping bottles after they safely got off of that capsule, but ironic to see them all showering everybody in champagne. Huge celebration, understandably, and their youngest passenger is so young he actually legally can't drink it, John.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about the 18-year-old passenger who can't even drink the champagne? Yes, that's probably true. But
and he can't even have, he can't even drink the champagne they're celebrating with. How, what do you think about having someone that young go up today, and all the people watching? When we were kids, we used to watch this, and you dream, but you never think, I could actually do this in the near future.
Well, I think that's part of it. It's the expansion of possibility here. The fact that now anybody on the planet has the potential for someday to be able to get into space, especially an 18-year-old. I mean, we've got a tremendous future ahead. By the way, the next level here, and this is not to take anything away from this because it's quite a milestone, both the Virgin Galactic launch and this. But the next thing that will be 20 years down the road probably is people going into an orbital situation to where they're going to be up there for several days, maybe even to some sort of a space station other than the one we've got right now. So there's another tier ahead of us, but this is a milestone. And I think the inclusion of that 18-year-old, first of all, it was a rather brilliant thing for Jeff Bezos to do. And secondly, I think it gives a lot of people a lot of renewed hope. Those of us who now are a few years down the road, who had the possibility of going into the astronaut program many, many years ago and decided not to, basically knew that it was going to be a very long road. And now that road is kind of widened, and that's an important point, I think.
And Hakeem, as an astrophysicist, thinking about all the science and technology, everything that went into making this happen, what did you think watching this pilotless launch? The only people on board this spacecraft were the passengers.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable that it's an autonomous vehicle that are delivering people to space. And it wasn't lost on me that once that capsule separates, the booster looks a lot like Doctor Who's sonic screwdriver. So maybe that's why things went so smoothly.
I love that analysis. Katie, what's the broader impact, you think, of this flight, particularly given the way it was conducted?
Well, this flight, plus Virgin Galactic, the flights coming up in the fall with SpaceX, with, 4 very different people, but not professional astronauts going to space and staying for a few days. Every one of these, it's not a competition. It's about the fact that every one of these brings people from Earth to space in different ways. And I think of Oliver, at the age of 18. He's going to see the world in a different way than, for the rest of his life. He can't unsee and unhappen what just happened. And yet, more importantly, other 18-year-olds, young people, are going to realize that it's not just people that look like the other 3 people in that capsule. It is people that look like them, people that feel like them, that are going to get to go to space. And it makes it more real. I think it makes them realize they had better be ready, and that applying themselves in school really counts. And there is just something compelling and magical about spaceflight. And I think when you see real people doing it, you realize that if real people can do that, then you yourself, as a real person, can do anything as well.
Hakeem, we've seen so many advances in space lately. Obviously, Branson, his launch. Now we've got with Virgin Galactic. Now we have Jeff Bezos and the Blue Origin launch. SpaceX, landing a rocket seemed just incredible enough, but the exploration on Mars, you name it. So what do you think is the next step in all of this? Both space travel for humans to go, but also just space exploration in general.
Well, what stands out to me about this process is just the creativity that's involved. All of these 3 new companies, SpaceX, Virgin Galactic's Blue Origins, they're all taking very different approaches. Now, one thing that this could mean is that things are going to look very different going into the future. Are we going to have space hotels? Are we going to have high-altitude balloon, perhaps, space hotels? When we talk about access to space from a research perspective, we have suborbital platforms like a sounding rocket, like we've seen here, or a high-altitude balloon. Then we have orbital systems, and then we have systems that go beyond. And, if you look at our science fiction, that is what expresses our aspirations. We're ready to go beyond. We want to have space tourism into our own solar system. Let's go visit Saturn and Titan. And people actually have been planning. Mae Jemison, the former astronaut, led something called the 100-Year Starship project, funded by DARPA, and that project investigated sending people to another star system. So we have aspirations to basically become Star Trek. And what we're looking at now are these step-by-step, just going about it systematically and unleashing the human potential is what I think these private companies are doing.
Well, that all sounds awesome, but I saw the Disney movie Up, and no thank you on the balloon hotel, Hakeem. Former NASA astronaut Katie Coleman, astrophysicist Hakeem Alushaei, and former U.S. Air Force pilot John Nance. Thank you all so much for your analysis today. It helps us put the pieces together on what is an incredible sight for us to observe, but so much more meaningful when we get to understand it through your lenses. So thanks again.
Thank you.
And that does it for this newscast. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. We'll see you right back here at 11 a.m. Eastern. Until then, enjoy the rest of the morning.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.